morning, everyone, to the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau Advisory Committee meeting being held Wednesday, June 12th at 10 a.m. via WebEx and in person. At this time, I would now like to call the meeting to order. Preceding our call to order, I would now like to establish quorum and call for a roll call. At this time, I would ask Rebecca to call for roll to establish a quorum.
Good morning. As I call your name, please indicate if you are here. Bertha Sanchez Hayden.
Here.
Elizabeth Ichikawa.
Here.
Joyce Anthony. Joyce Anthony.
Here.
Great. James Moore.
Present.
Linda Ng.
Here.
Alfred Torregano.
Present.
With 6 members present, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Rebecca. At this time, I will move on to item number 3 on our agenda. I would like to ask the committee members and the Bureau staff to introduce themselves. I'll start. I am Bertha Sanchez Hayden. I'm chair of the advisory committee. I am an appointed member and I work as a directing attorney for Batsedic Legal Services. I am pleased to announce as your chair that we also have a new advisory committee member, Alfred Tarango, who was appointed by the Senate Rules Committee as a public member. Welcome, Mr. Tarango. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Bertha. My name is Alfred Torregano. I am from the city of Los Angeles. I'm a public member, newly appointed, grateful to be here. I'm an artist, a DJ, an event producer, and a nonprofit founder as well. So just happy to be here and do this important work with the team. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. As I call your name, please introduce yourself and add anything else you would like to say. Vice Chair Elizabeth Ichikawa.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Ichikawa. I am the supervising court investigator in Solano County.
Joyce Anthony.
Good morning. I'm Joyce Anthony. I'm a professional fiduciary since 2005, Prime Fiduciary Services in Los Altos.
James Moore.
Morning. My name is James Moore. I'm a professional fiduciary, mostly in the Sacramento region.
Linda Ng.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Linda Ng. I am an enroll agent and live in Sacramento.
Rebecca May.
Good morning. I'm Rebecca May, the Bureau Chief of the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau. I was appointed by the governor in 2017.
Helen Joffrey.
Hi, I'm Helen Joffrey. I am Bureau. Hello. I am Bureau Counsel for PFB.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, we will move on to item number 4 on the agenda. Please allow me to briefly address this agenda item. California law prohibits advisory committee members from discussing or taking action on any matter not on the agenda. However, this item offers an opportunity to the public to comment on items that are not listed on today's agenda. Please be aware that the public comment during this agenda item should provide information to the advisory committee members and is not meant to be a discussion between advisory committee and the public. Though this may seem at times as the advisory committee members or bureau staff are not being responsive, following these guidelines is critical to ensuring the rules of the Open Acts meeting are followed. Before the committee asks for public comment, I ask individuals making comments to not discuss pending complaints, pending licensing applications, or pending disciplinary actions that may come before the Bureau's legal counsel. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications by potentially providing information to the Bureau's legal counsel and outside of the administrative record in the case. The committee strongly asks you to also respect the privacy of others by not revealing the names, other personal information, and the condition of any individuals involved in any case or complaint. The advisory committee can receive comments regarding the Bureau's process in general, but it cannot receive comments on specific cases. If you want the committee to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you may request that that item be considered for a future meeting agenda. However, a request does not obligate the Bureau to fulfill that request. If your comment is related to an item on today's agenda, please wait until we get to that agenda item. Comments at this time are only for items not on the agenda. To allow the committee sufficient time to conduct its full schedule of business, public comments will be limited to 2 minutes apiece. Please do not duplicate or repeat the comments of a previous speaker. I will now turn to public comment. Since we are having a hybrid meeting, I will start public comment on each agenda item, including this one, with individuals attending the meeting in Sacramento, followed by individuals attending the meeting via WebEx. I would like to invite members of the public attending the meeting in Sacramento to provide comments about this agenda item. Rebecca, are there any members?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. We do not have any public members in person. If we get one, we can let you know. Otherwise, we can always go straight to virtual.
Okay, thank you. As noted, there are no members of the public in the hearing room. So I will start always now with comments of attendees via WebEx unless prompted otherwise. Thank you. Are there any, I will now like to ask the moderator to call for public comments for any individuals attending this meeting via WebEx.
We are now accepting public comment for items not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise a hand. And for our mobile device users, you have 3 different pages and only one of them has a hand button. So you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... at the bottom, in order to find your hand. Requests for public comment will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a 30-second warning before your time expires. At this point, we're going to take a few more seconds to see if we have a request for public comment for items not on the agenda. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you, moderator. At this time, we will move to item number 5 on our agenda. Rebecca, please read the Bureau's mission statement.
Protect consumers through licensing, consumer education, and enforcement of the Professional Fiduciaries Act, and promote and uphold competency and ethical standards across the profession.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the committee members? As there are no comments from the committee members, I would like to invite members of the public attending this meeting via WebEx to provide comment. Moderator, can you please call for public comments from any individuals attending this meeting via WebEx?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 5, the reading of the mission statement. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3. And mobile device users, please hit the ellipses button, that's the ... if you're having trouble finding your hand button. We're going to take just a few more seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you, moderator. We will now move to item number 6 on the agenda. Are there any suggested edits to the March 19th, 2024 meeting minutes by the committee members? As I do not hear any requests for suggested edits, is there a motion to approve the March 19th, 2024 minutes and allow the Bureau staff to make non-substantive edits if needed?
This is Elizabeth Ichikawa. I move to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Thank you. Noting there's 2 seconds. Are there any discussion from the committee members? As there are no discussions for the committee members, I will now ask the moderator to call for public comments from any individuals attending this meeting via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on the motion for the meeting minutes. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial star 3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes. Thank you, moderator. Rebecca, can you please repeat the motion provided, followed by a roll call vote?
Motion is to adopt the March 19th, 2024 meeting minutes as drafted, to allow Bureau staff to make non-substantive edits if needed, and to post the meeting minutes to the Bureau's website. I will now take a roll call vote. Bertha Sanchez Hayden,
Yes.
Elizabeth Ichikawa,
Yes.
Joyce Anthony,
Yes.
James Moore,
Yes.
Linda Ng,
Yes.
Alfred Torregano.
Yes.
With 6 votes, the motion carries. The minutes will be posted to the Bureau's website. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. We will now proceed to item number 7. I would like to invite Karina Moreno to present an update on behalf of the Department of Consumer Affairs Executive Office. Welcome, Karina.
Good morning. My name is Karina Moreno of the California Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. On behalf of the department, I would like to welcome Alfred Torregano to the advisory committee. I would also like to thank you all who serve to protect the public. Revised 2024-2025 state budget proposal released. On May 10th, Governor Gavin Newsom released the May revision of the proposed 2024-25 state budget that reduces and stabilizes spending following the COVID-19 pandemic. The budget proposals include cuts of one-time spending by $19.1 billion and ongoing spending by $13.7 billion through 2025-26, a nearly 8% cut to state operations, and a targeted elimination of 10,000 vacant state positions. Once the state budget is finalized, DCA will share all information and guidance received from the Department of Finance. In the meantime, DCA boards and bureaus must continue to scrutinize expenditures and maximize cost savings, only authorizing expenditures that are mission critical and essential to the operations and public services. Next is DCA connects with U.S. military and families to share licensing resources. On May 29, 2024, DCA hosted a live webinar to share information about licensing resources available to members of the military and their families. The webinar was held during Military Appreciation Month, and attendees were welcomed by Undersecretary Melinda Grant. They were provided a demonstration of federal professional licenses, portability, and state registration portal by Chief Information Officer Jason Piccioni, and had their questions answered by executive officers and staff from the boards of barbering and cosmetology and physical therapy. The event concluded with remarks from Director Kirchmeier, encouraging attendees to share the licensing resources with others and reiterating DCA's commitment to supporting the military community. The webinar was attended by individuals from the Navy, Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, and others who support the military community. An archive of the webinar will be available on DCA's military resource webpage. Next is the Board Leadership and Directors Quarterly Meeting. On June 11th, DCA will meet with board presidents, vice presidents, committee chairs, executive officers, and bureau chiefs at the quarterly leadership meeting. Agency Secretary Tamika Moss will open the meeting, so we hope that all board leaders can join us. Agenda items include updates from DCA on state budget, information security, DEI activities, and an important presentation from the Office of Digital Innovation on plain language. The meeting invite has been distributed to board leadership. If you did not receive the invite, please contact DCA's Board and Bureau Relations. Next is the scam alert. DCA has learned of a recent increase in scams targeting licensees. Through the nature of scams varies, they are similar in that they involve individuals falsely identifying themselves as board employees and telling the licensee that they are under investigation. The scammers attempt to gather personal and/or financial information and may even demand payment. Boards are urged to be vigilant and proactive in providing licenses with tips on avoiding scams. Next is the DEI update. DCA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, also referred to as DEI, Steering Committee will meet on July 26, 2024. If you have ideas you'd like the committee to consider, please let your executive officer or bureau chief know. As a reminder, DCA's learning management system has many DEI-related training courses available. Board members are encouraged to participate in trainings and continue to grow in our DEI efforts. Next is Board Member Orientation Training, BMOT, June 18th, 2024. Reminder, board members must complete BMOT within 1 year of their appointment or reappointment. BMOT will be offered virtually on June 18th and again on October 22nd. Members can register for this training via learning management system. Again, thank you for the opportunity to join today. I'm happy to answer any questions from the advisory committee at this time. If further information or assistance is needed with any of the items shared today, please don't hesitate to reach out to Board and Bureau Relations.
Thank you, Karina. May I ask you, can you repeat the date of the digital innovation? Let me pull that back up. June 11th. Thank you so much.
Yes, that was yesterday.
Yesterday.
You're welcome.
And are there any comments from the committee members? Seeing as there are no comments from the committee members, I would now like to ask the moderator to call for public comments from any individuals attending this meeting via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 7, the DCA update. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you, moderator. And thank you, Karina, for that robust update.
You're welcome.
We will now proceed to item number 8 on the agenda. I would like to invite Andrew Truty from the Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office to present budget updates. Welcome, Andrew.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Trudy, and I'm the budget analyst with the DCA Budget Office. I'm here alongside Harmony DeFlippo, the budget manager. I want to thank the advisory committee and the bureau chief for allowing me a few minutes to present on agenda item 8, the bureau's expenditure projections and fund condition statement. First, I'm going to start with the bureau expenditures, page 10 of your materials. These projections are based on actual data through fiscal month 10. This report includes 2022-23 actual expenditures in green compared to 2023-24 budgeted and projected expenditures in blue and orange. As we moved to the end of the document, you will see the board had a beginning base budget of $1.078 million and is projected to spend approximately $828,000, creating a reversion to the Bureau's fund a little under $293,000, with a reversion percentage of 26.17%. The next document I will be going over is the Bureau's revenue projections, page 11 of your materials. This report includes receipts collected through April, providing the projected revenue to year end. I will go further into the projections as we transition to the next slide. The next slide, page 12 of your materials, is the Bureau's fund condition statement. As a reminder, we read this document top to bottom and left to right. The left column is the Bureau's prior year 2022-23 actuals. It shows the Bureau began 2022-23 with a beginning balance of $317,000, collected $657,000 in revenues with $78,000 from initial license fees, $544,000 from license renewals, and $35,000 was collected from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. The Bureau expended $720,000, which includes $52,000 in direct draws to the fund for statewide pro rata and pension payments. The Bureau closed 2022-23 with $254,000 reserve balance, or about 3.5 months in reserve. For current year, the Bureau projects revenues of $805,000, which includes the new fee increases, with $116,000 projected from initial license fees and $653,000 from renewal fees, and $36,000 from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. The Bureau's 2023-24 expenditures are based on the governor's budget with FM10 projections and is $874,000 between authorized expenditures and direct draws to the fund, leaving the Bureau with a fund balance of $185,000 or 1.9 months in reserve. The Budget Office will continue to monitor the Bureau's revenue and expenditures and report back to the Bureau with monthly expenditure projections as we continue to close out the fiscal months of the current fiscal year. A few things to note of the Bureau's fund condition. The fund condition is a snapshot in time. The fund condition statement includes the current year 2023-24 projected revenue with the projected increase for the application, initial licenses, and renewals. I will also note that the renewal fee is effective for renewals expiring after March 31st, 2024. You will also notice revenue is projected static in the out years. One of the main factors driving expenditure increases in future years is a result of personal service adjustments. These include general salary increases, as well as employee compensation and retirement rate adjustments. The Budget Office includes a conservative ongoing 3% increase to expenditures on the fund condition statement to account for these ongoing incremental adjustments. Lastly, I would like to note to the Bureau that any future legislation or unanticipated events could result in the Bureau's need for additional resources, which would create cost pressure on the fund. The Budget Office will continue to monitor the Bureau's fund condition statement and keep the line of communication with the Bureau Chief open for any future needs or expectations. Again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present at today's meeting, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you again for that update. Are there any comments from the committee members?
This is committee member Ng. I do have a question, just a clarification. You know, on page 10 of the projection report, the second column to your right, when you say year to date for 754,000, when you say year to date, is it to the end of May 31st, or this is or to the end of the year, fiscal year?
This is going to be through April, the end of April.
So based on the past performance, I expect that, I mean, is it safe to say that the Bureau is going to exceed the projection for the year?
Hi, this is Harmony. So you're talking about the revenue projections. So the revenue projections show your year to date through April, but the very last column is our projection to year end. So you can see that we are projecting higher than the original budget for revenue.
Oh,
it is just slightly higher.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is, like, the fiscal year end is June 30th, correct?
Yes, correct.
So we have two more months to go. I'm just saying that something is positive, not negative about the budget. You know, when you say, you know, when the Bureau projected the budget 805, you know, 805,000. And at this time, we have collected 754, right? So in the past few months, past 10 months, the income is probably around $50,000 per month. Is it safe to say that? So when you get another 100 grand, I mean, we still have 2 more months to go. So 100 grand, we're going to exceed what your projection is.
So if you're looking at the revenue projections, the Bureau's projection for the budget for current year was 794,000. And so that very bottom revenue line in the bold blue, that shows you the total revenue for each of those fiscal months that came in. So you can kind of see there's a little bit of a fluctuation, but also keeping in mind that the fees increased this year. So from January forward, you're going to see kind of an increase in the revenue coming in for those fiscal months. And so we're projecting that increase to continue, and that we are projecting the Bureau to bring in slightly higher than what they originally projected for the budget.
But that's good news. That's why I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, that's great.
I just wanted to clarify because
Yes.
if we were going to cut budget, but then you have some cushion, for it. So that's great. That's great,
Yep.
And I just want to commend the Bureau is doing a good job in collecting revenue. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Thank you, Linda. Are there any other comments from committee members before I call for public comment? As there are no other comments from committee members, I will now ask the moderator to call for public comments from any individuals attending this meeting via WebEx.
We are now open for public comment on the budget update. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3. And as a reminder to our mobile device users, if you're having trouble finding that hand button, please hit the ellipses button, that's the ... and cycle through one of 3 pages in order to find your hand button. We're going to take just a few more seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you, moderator. And thank you, Andrew and Harmony, for providing those updates and details. We will now go to item number 9 on the agenda. I would like to invite Aubrey Hopkins from the Department of Consumer Affairs and Legislative Office to present the legislative update.
Good morning. My name is Aubrey Hopkins, and I'm a legislative analyst with the department's Division of Legislative Affairs. I would like to start the legislative update with a couple of important dates that are coming up in the legislative cycle. I believe this information is on page 13 of your meeting materials. The first date that we have coming up is June 15th, which is when the budget bill must be passed by midnight. July 3rd is going to be the last day for policy committees to meet and report bills. It is also the beginning of the legislature's summer recess. On August 5th, the legislature will reconvene, and on August 16th will be the last day for fiscal committees to meet and report bills. August 31st will be the last day for each house to pass bills, and September 30th is the deadline for the governor to sign or veto bills passed by the legislature. Moving on, I would like to discuss AB 2148, authored by Assemblymember Lowe, titled Professional Fiduciaries. This bill would require the Bureau to issue a certificate of registration to a fiduciary corporation to render professional services after meeting specified requirements. The bill would also allow the Bureau to set the fee to obtain and annually renew a certificate of registration. Additionally, the bill would amend the probate code to prohibit a superior court from appointing an unlicensed fiduciary or unregistered entity as a guardian, conservator, trustee, or other officer, or permit a professional fiduciary to continue in any of those offices unless the professional fiduciary either holds a current unsuspended license to act as a professional fiduciary, or they're exempt from the licensing requirements as specified in the Professional Fiduciaries Act. This bill was recently referred to the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Business Professions and Economic Development Committees, so it is in the second house. The next bill I have is AB 2800, authored by Assemblymember Kalra, titled Elder Abuse and Dependent Civil Protection Act. This bill was a spot bill. Spot bills propose non-substantive amendments, to a code section with the intent that it will be amended substantively in the future. This spot bill specifically was related to elder abuse and the Dependent Civil Protection Act at the time of the last advisory committee meeting. This bill was last amended on March 21st, 2024, and would have expanded the definition of neglect in the Welfare and Institutions Code to include the failure to implement a treatment plan, failure to provide or arrange for necessary services, or carelessness that produces or could reasonably be expected to result in serious physical injury, mental suffering, or death. This bill would also have revised the definition of physical abuse to include the use of a physical or chemical restraint or psychotropic medication for discipline or convenience when not required to treat the resident's medical symptoms and administered by a long-term healthcare facility as defined in Section 1418 of the Health and Safety Code, or by a residential care facility for the elderly as defined in Section 1569.2 of the Health and Safety Code. This bill failed passage and is dead, so it will not be moving during this legislative session. That's the end of the legislative update, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Aubrey. Are there any comments from committee members?
Yeah, I would love to know how the bill fell dead. Was there significant pushback, or what was the vote actually?
I just have that it didn't pass the policy committee. Give me 1 second to see if I have any more detailed notes about that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this bill, after it was introduced, it was referred to the Committee on Aging and Long-Term Care and the Judiciary Committee. It looks like it wasn't heard in the Judiciary Committee, and it was held in the Committee on Aging and Long-Term Care. It does have a note that the hearing was canceled at the request of the author, so I don't know if the author just had too many bills and too many other things that he was working on and decided not to pursue this one. Or if there was a reason that it was held in committee, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like there was any support or opposition registered.
Thank you for that. Appreciate you.
No problem.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from committee members? As there are no further comments from committee members, I would like to ask the moderator to call for public comment for anyone attending via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on Agenda 9, Legislative Update. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And our first request comes from Jerry Desmond. We're going to give you 2 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a 30-second warning before your time expires.
Committee members, I'm Jerry Desmond with the Professional Fiduciary Association of California, PFAC, and had just to note a comment we have on AB 2148 that was mentioned by Ms. Hopkins. PFAC is supporting that bill, and we see it as resolving some issues that have been identified with the current laws by courts, attorneys, and licensed professional fiduciaries. That includes first, although the probate code does not authorize the court to appoint entities, except for financial institutions in representative capacities, we're finding that courts have been approving petitions seeking the appointment of organizations. And then second, because the probate code is silent as to whom a testator may name as executor or trustee of their trust, there aren't any restrictions for a testator to name an entity regardless of the licensing status of the members of that entity to serve in representative capacities. And then the authority of the Bureau is limited under current law to licensing and regulating individuals and doesn't have any jurisdiction to protect consumers over a fiduciary entity or the members acting on behalf of that entity. And for these reasons, we see some loopholes in existing law and existing practice that AB 2148 would address, and we're supporting the bill as currently worded. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was our only request for public comment.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you to for providing public comment, Mr. Desmond. I will now move to item number 10. Before moving to item number 10, I would like to thank Aubrey for her legislative update. We will now proceed to item number 10, and I would like to invite Tricia Sinclair from the Department of Consumer Affairs, Solid, to present on the Department and Bureau's plan to incorporate DEI objective in the Bureau's 2023 sorry, got a little cut off, the next strategic plan. Tricia?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good morning. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we'll be calling it DEI because that's a mouthful, supplemental strategic planning process. If I could have the next slide, please. So many of you have probably heard that the governor passed an executive order N1622 requiring state agencies and departments to include equity analysis and consideration into their policies and procedures. Because of that, Solid Planning has worked with the DCA's DEI Steering Committee to make sure that the strategic planning process includes a DEI procedure, and we've added to our we've added to our surveys and interviews in the strategic planning process 3 sets of DEI questions. The first set of questions are DEI suggestions, then we ask about anyone's willingness to be a subject matter expert, and then we have demographic questions. And this is our process now. At the time that the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau created its current strategic plan, the DEI questions were not in place. That's where the supplement comes in. So we're going to supplement your already existing strategic plan with a DEI outlook. Next slide, please. So this is a roadmap of the DEI supplemental process. The arrow indicates where we are today. Following this, a mini DEI survey will go out to external and internal stakeholders. We will summarize that data, present it back to the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau, and then we'll hold a DEI strategic planning session where participants will look at the current strategic plan, and any objectives that have not yet been completed will be reviewed to see if possibly they can be expanded to include DEI in some respect. So for example, if you had an objective that talked about creating videos to explain the licensing process, making that include DEI might mean that you produce that video in multiple languages. It's just one example. Once that, after all the objectives that are not yet completed, still in process, have been possibly expanded to include DEI, then participants will also get the option or the opportunity to create new objectives based on the results of the new DEI information. After that session, Solid will come up with an amended strategic plan draft. Once that's approved, the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau will have the option to possibly do action planning on any new objectives that have been added to its strategic plan, with the idea that the plan might be made a little longer as well to accommodate those new objectives. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go a little bit further into the DEI. Thank you. So incorporating DEI, we've added, like I said, we've added the DEI 3 sets of questions, and then that includes the demographic questions. These questions are all optional, just so you know. Anyone taking the survey can skip any of these questions. We include a DEI analysis in the report that we present to the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau. During the strategic planning process, Solid planners will encourage that DEI is incorporated into goals and objectives, and will remind the planning session participants to consider DEI impacts of any policy decisions. Next slide. So I mentioned DEI questions. Here they are, and so we'll be asking internal and external stakeholders, what ways can PFB gain different perspectives about ideas and priorities? Are there unnecessary requirements or barriers to licensure? Can outreach be conducted and connection made to all Californians? And are there ways that PFB can further equal access to opportunities? Next slide, please. And that is it. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much. Are there any comments from committee members? As there are no comments from committee members, I would now ask the moderator to call for public comments from any individuals attending this meeting via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on the DEI presentation. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you, moderator. And thank you again, Tricia, for that update. We will now proceed to item number 11 on the agenda. Rebecca, can you please present the Bureau updates?
Good morning, everyone. All right, so I'll just get started and then take the questions at the end. So if you want to follow along with me, the statistics are in the materials if you want to follow along. Before I dig in, please note that particularly as it relates to licensing, these numbers reflect what the Bureau is able to control, and any wait times associated with the examination provider are outside of the Bureau's control. So that said, these statistics are from July 1st through March 31st. So it's 3 quarters of this current fiscal year. Total licenses issued as of July 1st, 2008, and this is on March 31st, was 1,423. Number of licenses by status as of March 31st, active licensees, 853. 7 inactive licensees, and 14 retired. So for applications during this time frame, the Bureau has received 79 applications and issued 51 licenses. The processing time for complete applications, so it means that the application is complete and we've notified the licensee that they can sit for the exam. It's for quarter 1, 17 days from receipt to approval to sit for the exam, 8 days from passing the exam to issuance of a license. Quarter 2, 21 days from receipt of a completed application to approval to sit for the exam, and 8 days from passing the exam to issuing a license. And then quarter 3, January through March, 24 days from receipt to approval to sit for the exam, and 10 days from passing the exam to issuance of the license. So in quarter 3 for this time period, the Bureau issued or processed 167 renewals for a total of 595 renewals. The processing timelines was up a little bit in quarter 3 to 18 days, but still very good. Moving on to enforcement, the Bureau has received 86 complaints from quarter 1 through 3 in fiscal year 23-24. Closed 135 complaints. The average days to close are 153. Number of complaints pending as of March 31st, 2024 is 93. The Bureau issued 25 citations and initiated 3 cases with the Attorney General's office. So for outreach events, I have no outreach events to report since the last meeting, and there are no upcoming outreach events on the Bureau's calendar. Please email the Bureau if you learn of any events that you believe the Bureau should consider attending. The e-newsletter, so I'm working on the final draft of the June newsletter now, and I'm hopeful that it'll be disseminated next week to the interested parties list and posted to the Bureau's website. If there's any item you'd like to see in the newsletter, advisory committee members and members of the public, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Bureau with your suggestions. So website updates, the Bureau is continuing to make edits to its website. The education page has been revamped significantly. The annual statement and initial annual statement forms were updated, and we're working with the Office of Public Affairs on revamping the how-to application video. And we still need to work on the application page. So hiring of enforcement staff, this is a big one. The Bureau has conducted interviews for the enforcement analyst position and is working with the Office of Human Resources to make an offer. I'm hopeful we will have someone in place by the end of the fiscal year on June 30th. And for the strategic plan, again, instead of having a standalone item for the Bureau's strategic plan, I'm folding this into the Bureau Chief update. The Bureau continues to slowly chip away at the strategic plan. As Ms. St. Clair presented, the Bureau is going to be updating the plan this year to include DEI objectives. So what we're working on currently, again, is slowly moving to paperless. Our retention schedule is now in place, so we're purging obsolete files, scanning and retaining new documents electronically. Lots of cross-training going on between licensing and enforcement staff and working on desk manuals. So that's the Bureau's update for this meeting. Are there any questions?
Rebecca, I just had a couple of clarifications.
Sure.
So the licenses that have been issued total versus the active, inactive, and retired, they're different. And I just wondered, the earlier is the total doesn't include ones that just never got renewed?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't include, so that you could also have a delinquent license or a canceled license, and those numbers are not reflected in here. But
Okay.
you can tell, I mean, I guess if you're going to subtract the active number of licenses from the licenses issued total, I mean, obviously people, folks aren't going to be licensed forever. And we just started issuing retired and inactive licenses in January of 2023. So prior to then, unfortunately, it just simply wasn't a status, a license status that one could hold. So hopefully folks will, that are wanting to exit the profession will go to retired status instead of delinquent and then canceled.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. So it's really only been going for a year and a half.
A year and a half, yeah. And there appears to have been interest, so we're happy about that. And licensees had reached out to us prior to, we had to promulgate regulations in order to do it and make sure all of our IT systems are ready to take the applications and the new payment amounts and things of that. So it was a big lift, and it seems to now just be, kind of, we've eased in and we do get applications for both retired and inactive. They're coming in.
Yeah, and I think that clarifies when somebody just doesn't retire and you don't really know why, could be lots of reasons, right? So I think that sounds like that was a good addition. I also just wanted to see if you knew anything about, I'm looking at the renewal process. And the third quarter was less than the 2 quarters before that, of which the addition of the increase in the renewal fees. Are you seeing any of that, or is this January to March typically lower, or do you know?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can definitely look into it a little bit further. I think given that our revenue appears to be steady, it might just be that quarter 3 just has fewer renewals. When the Bureau was formed and licenses were being issued, the expiration of a license was predicated on someone's birth month. And so now since we've increased the fees, that has changed, and it'll just be a 1-year cycle regardless of when your birthday is. So I don't know for sure if there's just fewer birthdays between January and March, or if it's because there's fewer people renewing. I could definitely look into that, and I'd be happy to report about that because at the next meeting we'll have all 4 quarters and we can take a look. It is always, like I say, it's a snapshot in time. I mean, realizing that these are numbers that we had on March 31st, and so it could be that people process their licenses late. I'm not quite sure without digging in.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's too early to really, look at any trends, but it would be something we should try to watch for to see if the increase in the fees is a barrier to entry or continuation of the licensing.
Absolutely, and that's something we monitor our numbers with the budget office pretty closely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further comments from committee members? No. Thank you, Joyce, for your comments. As there are no further comments from committee members, I will now ask the moderator to call for public comments from individuals attending this meeting via WebEx.
We are open for public comment via WebEx on agenda item 11. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you. We will now transition to item number 12. And again, Rebecca, can you please present the proposed rulemaking status update?
Yes, so the Bureau filed a Section 100 change related to licensing processing times with the Office of Administrative Law on May 6th. A Section 100 is a change to an existing regulation without regulatory effect, which is a fancy way of saying it's a non-substantive change that does not need to go through the regular rulemaking process. I anticipate OAL will make a determination whether or not to approve the Section 100 in the coming days, and I'll provide an update at our next meeting.
Thank you, Rebecca. Are there any comments from committee members? As there are no comments from the committee members, I will now ask the moderator to call for public comments from any individuals attending this meeting via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 12. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users dial *3 to raise a hand. And as a reminder to our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... in order to find your hand. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you, moderator, and thank you, Rebecca, for both of those robust updates. We will now move on to item number 13 on the agenda, and I will ask Rebecca if she's recorded any items from our meeting today for consideration for inclusion on the future agenda.
So I have not noted any specific items. I mentioned to Ms. Anthony that I will talk about, any trends for renewals, but I'll fold that into my Bureau Chief update at the next meeting.
Great, thank you. Are there any other items the committee members would like to add? As there are no items from committee members, I will now ask the moderator to call for public comments from any individuals attending this meeting via WebEx.
We are now open for future agenda items. If you have a suggestion, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And our first request comes from caller 5. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone. You're going to be given 2 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a 30-second warning before your time expires. You may need to dial *6 in order to unmute.
Good morning. My name's Chris. I had a brief question. It's actually going back because my system was not working appropriately. that is user error, but it was going back to item 11, and I apologize for doing this so late in the game here, regarding the licensing timeline. Wanted to see if there was an ability to get an update on current licensing timelines, as myself and some colleagues and others have seen, we're about that 30 or 40 day timeline now on responses for licenses. Just wanted to see if there was any ability to get an update on that or add that to a future agenda item.
Hi, this is Rebecca. Yeah, thank you for your question. When we put together the meeting materials, a lot of this is kind of front loaded. So unfortunately, these statistics end at March 31st. And so I don't have numbers on hand to share with you for like the last month or the last 2 months. That said, we'll definitely provide an update on the entire fiscal year for 23-24 at the next meeting. And if you are having any issues with your application, please reach out to the Bureau. Happy to troubleshoot, see if we can help you, make sure we can get it sorted out. But I appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And that was our only request for public comment.
Thank you, moderator. And and thank you to all who have participated in the last agenda item. We will now proceed to item number 14 on our agenda. The following meeting dates have been scheduled for this year: Wednesday, September 11th, 2024, and Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. We also would like to call attention that the Bureau has tentatively scheduled the following dates for 2025: Wednesday, March 12th, 2025, Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, and Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. Are there any comments from the committee members? As there are no comments from the committee members, I would like to ask the moderator to call for public comments from any individuals attending this meeting via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on future meeting dates. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users dial *3 to raise a hand. And as a reminder to our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... in order to find your hand. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you, moderator. At this time, we have now reached the end of our agenda. I'd like to thank all the committee members and the staff for providing updates, and the meeting is now adjourned at 10:58 a.m.